Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jami.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle and our Fusion Hack. In our Fusion Hack today, we have a special guest, Miss Jordan Brannon, IFBB pro, mother, dog mother, wife, business owner, not mother of dogs.
Mother of dogs.
Okay, not to be confused with mother of dragons.
Khaleesi.
But yeah, she's the Khaleesi of two golden retrievers. I love that. I think we're going to have to market that now.
I like it
Great
too.
ideas. Okay. Back on target. So today's Fusion Hack is avoiding boredom in the gym.
I love this topic.
Yeah, and we set the table on this one by talking about how the grind of the grind, the workout, and how, you know, the philosophy about it's not changing the workouts isn't the answer. It's finding some element of joy in that workout. And Jordan, I would say that I'm not saying you've mastered it, but you are mastering it. And so talk to everybody about the tips for that.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because I don't realize how intense I am in the gym, but other people notice, like when I post my training videos and whatnot, I'm really big within the gym of staying off my phone. I notice that when I'm on my phone, I'm inundated all the time with clients and things like that, and it just kind of keeps pulling me from my workout. So about a year and a half ago, I switched to pen and paper for logging, and I kind of keep my phone on Do Not Disturb and try to stay off of it as best that I can. So what I really think when people are saying, hey coach, like I'm bored of these sessions, you know, I'm a really big fan as a coach of progressive overload style training. And that does not necessarily mean that weight is increasing each week. That could mean anything. That can mean sets, that can mean reps, that can mean time under tension, that can mean intensity. And so I take progressive overload as almost a game with myself. You know, before I go into the gym, I'm writing out my workout. I'm setting intentions of what I want my weights to look like or what I want to feel better from last week. And I'm taking those notes down before I even step foot in the gym. And then part of the intent in the gym is because every single rep, every single set, I am thinking about what I'm feeling, how many more reps I actually could have done. And every single rest break, I'm thinking about the last set and how I could have done better. Or did I really truly work to failure? Did I have one or two left in the tank? Am I being honest and real with myself? And I tell Jami all the time, sometimes when I leave the gym, I'm more mentally exhausted than I am physically exhausted because I'm trying to stay so present within the lift. So when people are coming to me, clients, and they're, you know, a little bit bored in their training, I do look at their progressive overload and I see that they've been doing the same weight on shoulder press for 4 to 6 weeks in a row, or they're, you know, not making the most out of their sessions. You have to think the more that you're on the phone in the gym, the more you're distracted from everything else around you. That applies to all phases in life, right? You can't really do two things great at once. But if you're hyper focusing on one thing, you're going to be great at that one thing. So I think a lot of this has to do with the mind, staying present in the workout and really being honest and real with yourself on what you're doing that day in the gym. But then also challenging yourself to continue to push and progress. And like I said, it's unrealistic to think that you're going to increase weight every session, but you can increase the mind and muscle activation and the feeling and the activation you're getting within that set.
I love that you talked about setting your intention. And I do think it's really important for people to keep in mind what their goals are, because not everybody's goals are the same. You know, not everybody, whether they be bodybuilders or not bodybuilders, even as, you know, if they're bodybuilders, they may be working, you know, to correct different imbalances, things like that. If they're, you know, if they have some kind of endurance sport, then they're going to train differently. So I think it's really important stepping foot into the gym, going, first of all, what is my intent? What am I doing? One of the things that I see you frequently doing is the tactile piece of it, so that you're tuning into what the purpose is and what you're looking to build. So talk a little bit about how you do that and the purpose behind it and what you feel like, you know, you accomplish because of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, not every lift in our world is about being the heaviest or trying to get PRs every session. Sometimes it's about those shaping movements of, if I'm trying to feel my upper outer glute in a specific exercise and I'm feeling my hamstring, that's an issue, right? So a lot of the times what I do is I pull the weight down, but I put my finger on that area I'm trying to feel, and I'm really trying to connect that muscle in whatever way I have to. Sometimes that means I have to pull down weight quite a bit. But if I increase weight just to say that I increase weight and I'm not feeling the upper outer glute like I want to, there's not a reason then for that exercise. Also to your point of, some bikini athletes do not need to grow shoulders. If they're going in there and going, progressive overload on their shoulders each week and continue to build up their shoulders, that's also an improper way for them to think about training. So it really is about what is the goal of that session? What's the goal of each exercise? And really taking note of that and making sure that in that specific movement, you're trying to nail that goal. And each week you might need to increase weight, decrease weight, whatever it is, to keep accomplishing that goal. But as long as you're feeling the right area and you're targeting that goal for each specific exercise, that to me is a version of progressive overload as well.
And I find that the point that you're making there, which is so interesting, especially in bikini, but in all of the bodybuilding class, I don't care even if it's men's open bodybuilding, you will never walk onto stage and have anybody ask you, hey, what's your PR for bench press?
Never.
Hey, what's your PR for leg press? Oh, you're not doing enough, so you can't come on stage. In no division, no ever, but it's interesting about balancing that competitive spirit against what is the purpose of my training, which is the difference between training for a competition that is not bodybuilding versus it's an internal competition.
Absolutely.
Versus training for purpose, which is how do I put the best physique on stage?
Yeah, and I think that's almost the hardest part of our sport. In our category is the fine details and the fine training. And again, that's what makes it so interesting to me. It takes another level of understanding of the body and your coach and things like that to go, okay, we need just a little bit here, but we also need to not grow here, and finding that balance. So to me, if you're having that much of a focus and intent on your training, how can it be boring? If you're just stepping into the gym and what we call this checkbox work of, okay, hip thrust, and that's going to get boring after a while. I could totally see how that could get boring, or you're just not in the session as a whole. But if you are truly taking the time to understand what each movement is doing, how to execute it, we talk about an exercise that we have in a lot of our programs right now. It's this hinge to mini squat that Drew and I came up with. And I have to continuously film myself week after week because it's one of those movements that no matter how much I do it, it's hard, and it could be wrong depending on how fatigued other muscle groups are and things like that. So that exercise I've been doing for a year, and it's still not boring to me. I'm still perfecting it. I'm still making it better. I'm still trying to find new ways within that same movement to get greater connection in different areas. That is what's keeping me interested in showing up with that exercise and still doing it for the last year and a half. And I feel it differently every time. So if you're really taking that time and that intent, to me, there's no way your training should be boring.
I totally agree. And I know I've had people before say, oh, I need you to change up my program, or it's not enough, and it's kind of funny that a lot of times when people say, oh, I need more volume, I need more sets, I need more, I'll tell them, like, come out and let me train you on that exact workout, and I guarantee you I can make it so that you're very tired at the end. So the question that comes to my mind when I hear those kinds of things, that either the person's bored or they don't feel like they're working, that they got enough or whatever that situation is exactly what you're saying, is setting the intention, understanding why you're doing what you're doing, being purposeful with every movement. If you're doing that in the gym, like you said, first of all, you're likely not going to be bored, and you're going to feel pretty exhausted towards the end, mentally as well as physically. And you should feel that exhaustion where it was meant to be felt. I think that you're probably the best I have seen in terms of recompositioning your body from when we started, because we were actually talking about going wellness, which would be bigger legs and everything, because your legs were so well developed, but you still needed glutes, to being so purposeful in your training. But that did require also decreasing the type, how many types of exercises you got to do. So
very minimal training.
So I do think that I love this topic, because I think people aren't always thinking about it correctly.
Yeah, there's different facets of training, right? Like my logbook right now, I have like maybe 5 to 6 exercises on those days. And some people will look at that and be like, how do you get enough of that? That's not enough. It's because I make the most out of those 5 or 6 exercises. And it's the intent. That's all it is the intent and the education behind it. And what are you working towards? And just like you said, that's a great compliment. We have reshaped my physique, but there's been a lot of education and a lot of thought into the movements that we have picked for my program in order to achieve that. And most of the time, we've talked about this on other podcasts, that once we have that logbook, it doesn't have to change because it's working. So why are you going to change something that's working? The body's very adaptable, and it gets better and better the more it does something. So, changing workouts every 4 weeks, your body's never going to have that chance to really thrive and get proficient at that movement and start to build. Some people cut their training off too soon and they lose gains on the table, because that's just when the body's starting to kind of get used to that movement and then be able to progress that movement. So I'm a big fan of finding what works in your logbook, sticking with it, and making the most out of that movement, because there's so many things you can do to progress it.
You reminded me about progressive overload, and there was a time when I was working my corporate job and I had a limited time for lunch, but I wanted to work out at that time because that was the best time for me to work out. And so I had my workout detailed out, and my objective on that was, how much can I do in this limited time?
Yeah.
So I just set a time limit for my workout. And if I didn't get to my last movement or my third movement or my fourth movement, well, that was my objective for the next time I went in. I would just limit myself, and my goal was to move as quickly and intentionally as possible through my workout, doing it well. And my objective in progressively overloading was to get more in within that limited amount of time.
Yeah.
It was a time-based workout.
Yeah, and the more you know your workout and your logbook, you can move faster.
That's right.
Because you're getting more and more and more proficient.
And when you say stay off your phone, I think, would you agree with this, is that if you do need to be on your phone because that's how you're tracking your workouts, which is fine, and if that works for you, turn on your do not disturb, right?
Yeah, and make that challenge to yourself to not open any other app. If you're tracking on an app, totally fine. It's a mental battle, right? You have work, you have emails, and you see them there and you want to open them so badly, but you can't. You have to learn to set those boundaries within yourself.
So I wrote down the points that we made during this Fusion hack that I want to make sure I got from you. So the first one is prepare.
Yes.
And that is prepare mentally, but also prepare physically. Like, what are you going to be working on this workout?
Yep.
And why?
And why? Right.
Yep.
The second thing you said was stay off your device, or at least do not disturb if you need to be on your device. The third thing was be intentional about the movements and really connect with the body part that you're training. And as you said, Jami, to make sure that you're exhausting the right body part. If I'm training my shoulders and I end up with my legs being exhausted, well, that's a big problem.
That's real far off.
That's a big problem.
You're on the wrong vicinity.
And then the last point that you said, Jordan, which I really loved this a lot, which is, how do I get the most out of my next set?
Yeah.
And that's, that flows into that last set, best set, but it's really not my last set. I'm just focusing on, how do I get better set to set. I love that.
Yeah, I think a lot of clients, you start with the first set and they're like, this is going to be my best set because it's like the most fresh set. But I challenge myself the opposite way, that the deeper I get into my workout, how can I continue to keep that intensity elevated the more tired that I am? And sometimes too, I get very daunting, right? Of like how many exercises I have and what's going on with my day. And I'm looking at this big picture. If I just focus on each set and take it down to the minimal, it keeps me, again, more inclined to stay within the workout and within what I'm doing in that moment. And then by the time you know it, the workout's done and you've given everything you have to that session.
And
it's almost like a meditation. It's a practice. It's really a practice in being present and being zen in that moment.
It is.
I've always found that training is very therapeutic. And I do think that if you bring that awareness, it brings it even to a deeper level.
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming you would embrace this as well, but it's like, okay, I have 5 movements in my plan today, but I'm on 4th movement, and because I've invested so much into my workout, I'm gassed.
Finishing, yeah.
So I'm done at 4.
Yep.
I'm not going to do that 5th movement today because I'm listening, I'm in touch with my body, and that's really about making that next set better, but also about being intentional.
Yeah.
I love, give yourself permission, because it's not more is more.
No.
It's train smarter, not harder.
Yeah. There are some days where I'm just mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, that I can't get to that last exercise. But just like you said, I make it a point for the next session that maybe I need to adjust something that was happening right before that exercise to make sure that I accomplish it the next time. And that's why each session is kind of different for me. It really depends on what's going on around me, where my mindset's at, how I'm feeling that day, and just, again, making that mental check with yourself. Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be coached by one of the best coaches in the industry, Miss Jay Brannon, it's Jay Brannon, JAYYBRANNON _.
Yep.
And that's on the IG, and then you can also access her on FitBodyFusion.com. And then Jami obviously is accessible on FitBodyFusion.com as well.
Well, and you can watch Jordan's podcast.
Yeah, we have a podcast called Behind the Bikini. I host it with Sean Hector Lewis, and that's on YouTube as well.
All right. So like and subscribe and comment. And let us
Go get
let
your
us know
good
your
training
feedback.
in.
Thanks everybody for joining us. And remember the 3 B's: be good to yourself, be good to each other, and be safe. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBody Fusion.